Hello, hello, strategic travel entrepreneurs. Rita here, and I want to sneak in right before we start our episode today to let you know that the Visibility Collaborative is turning into dun, 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 Marketing Business School. It is a monthly mentorship program aimed at helping you solve many of the different problems that I know we've all overcome or are currently facing in our travel businesses. I will be doing monthly master classes within Marketing Business School to help dispel, give you some clarity, take away some of that overwhelm so that you are better equipped to handle the marketing needs before you can hire on an actual marketer. So, I have the rest of the year's marketing topics as well as all of 2023's marketing topics. So, if you are ready to get magnetic messaging, create your marketing matrix, plan out your content for 2023, look at the marketing trends, create your branding aesthetics, search for visibility opportunities, discern the different social media platforms, recognize the do's and don'ts of relationship building, optimize your LinkedIn profile, maintain visibility during the slower seasons, repurpose your content, learn a little bit more about Instagram Reels, updating your marketing matrix, planning your 2024, and taking photos and videos for your business, then you definitely want to be into the Marketing Business School. There is chock full more information at the link at registration. You may see some old verbiage from Visibility Collaborative, but rest assured, the Marketing Business School is starting and the first session will be held next month, and I cannot wait to see you in there. All right, let's dig into this episode. Welcome to the Strategic Travel Entrepreneur. My name is Rita Perez. Hello. I've been a travel advisor for over 10 years and am navigating this winding road of entrepreneurship with you. I created this podcast because I wanted to share all the things I've learned from leaders both in and out of our industry that I really wish I would have known way back then. But alas, the important thing is I'm aware of them now, and I want you to be too. Ready for this week's show? Let's jump in. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. Amazing to have you here today. We have another wonderful guest. Her name is Deanna Harris, and you may know her from social media on Instagram. Actually, if you do know her from social media as exclusively yours, Instagram was wonky. So you may want to follow her on her new account, which we'll go ahead and link up at the show notes. But I love her content. And she is an incredibly helpful and very skilled writer to help you with all your content and copywriting needs for your travel business. So without further ado, hello, Deanna.
Hello, Rita. Thank you for having me.
I am so excited to start chatting a little bit. You know, my world has been a lot. We were talking about social media and we've been talking about like different tech on the podcast recently.
Okay.
And so I feel like getting back into words and storytelling with words is so important for travel business owners.
Absolutely.
So,
That's
how did you get your start in content and copywriting for the travel business?
sure. Well, it's kind of a strange, I kind of fell into it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I have had, I'm kind of winding it down, my own travel business since 2016.
Mm-hmm.
Very successful. I actually say in my About Me page that I was closing on my 40 cabin cruise on the Mardi Gras, and
Oh.
then the pandemic hit. And obviously, every cabin was canceled because all cruises
Mm-hmm.
were canceled, and every last one of my bookings canceled. And every time it seemed like we were hitting a lull and it was going to start back up, we would hit another wave, and then everything would cancel. And I was considering closing down my business. I just wasn't bringing in any revenue.
Mm-hmm.
And it really didn't seem like there was any end in sight. So, on a whim, I started writing for other travel agents because I did love the writing part of my business. Um, and one person would tell one person, and then another, and then another. And before you knew it, I was like, I'm actually enjoying this, and this is a full-fledged business.
Mm-hmm.
So I've not 100% closed my travel business doors, but I haven't taken any new clients. I don't have any current bookings right now. I'm just focusing on providing content and copy for travel agents.
That is incredible. And you said that you actually have a degree in English?
Yeah. I have a bachelor's in English, and I was 18 years old. I was super inspired in a creative writing course, and I got an A when, I wasn't sure if college was the right move for me. So I was like, I'm going to be an English major. I'm good at this. I love it. But, as the guidance counselor started to direct me into being a teacher, a journalist, and I was like, I don't really want to do that. But I didn't really see a path forward with that degree. So I moved away from that, but it all came full circle.
Mm-hmm. Yes. No,
Yeah.
and we need more people helping with writing because I feel like that is a big lack within the travel industry, especially like when I see social media posts. Are there some things that you're finding are like common mistakes that travel business owners are making in their content writing?
In their content writing, yeah, I think in their writing in general, I think there's a lack of sincerity that I see in writing, period. I think a lot of people think that they have to sound like they are this big giant conglomerate, when I think there is something special about making a personal connection,
Mm-hmm.
telling a good story, and letting the people know who you really are. And it's okay to say, it's just me. There's no us,
Right.
me. I'll get back to you, or this is how I got started. And I think if our clients wanted a big conglomerate, they would go to Expedia
Right.
or TripAdvisor. Well, you can book a TripAdvisor, or
Mm-hmm.
CaribbeanVacations.com, but they come seeking us out for that personalized connection. And I think we have to take advantage of that a little bit more.
Right. No, I totally agree. And it was so funny that you brought that up because I'm like, it just cringes me out. Just like seeing it, like, here is the iceberg in the ocean,
Mm-hmm.
and then DM me if you want to come here. And I'm like, you're not creating any sort of story or enticing. Like, you're expecting the photo to do the work, and the photo
Yeah.
can only go so far.
Yeah, especially with the push towards more video content. A stagnant picture with very little context is just not going to be beneficial on social media.
Mm-hmm. Right, right. So I know like a big thing that is kind of like in the industry too, it is that we're talking about SEO, and especially like when it comes to writing, what maybe like tips or insider tricks should we know about when we start writing in terms of SEO?
Well, depending on your website or your wherever you host your website or your blog, take advantage of any option they give you to increase your SEO. So that means, filling out your keywords when you're uploading a blog or when you're creating a new page on your website. Make sure you do fill out your alt image text. And I like to blog as much as possible on as many
Mm,
diverse topics as possible that still fit within my niche. Because the more
okay.
content you have, the more times you will come up in a search, or you'll meet someone's search criteria, so you'll be saying something that someone is searching for.
Okay. That is very important. And I know that SEO is kind of a long game. So when people talk about that too, how can we like
Mhm.
get it's like ants in your pants. You just want it to work right now.
Yeah, and there's a lot of travel businesses out there, so maybe it won't. But if you keep at it and you stay consistent and you continue to produce content on your website, you'll increase your rankings.
Kind of like going into that, what does content mean to you?
Content, so you mean like the difference between content and copy?
Sure. Let's go in that direction for now. Yeah.
Okay, so content is kind of what fills your pages, what makes you seem like an expert. So your blog writing is content. Social media captions are considered content. And then copywriting is when you're going in for the sale. So your email marketing, your sales sequences, versus a newsletter, let's say, where you're, building relationship, building expertise. That's a great example of a content in the same platform.
Oh, okay. I really love this. So what you're saying is that for you, content is more relationship building and copy is more sales converting.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Mm-hmm.
So how do we know when we need one or the other?
Well, I think in travel, because we sell such big ticket items, I think we're always playing the long game, and a focus on content is really important. So I tell people, especially when it comes to email, if the only time you're emailing your folks on your email list is to sell them something, is with your copy, then you're going to have a hard time converting because you haven't taken the time to build that relationship with your
Mm-hmm.
content. So I do think newsletters and maybe weekly or bi-weekly emails to improve those relationships are such, I think they're so impactful. I mean, they make you first and foremost in the person's inbox, in their mind, when they start to think about travel. Like, oh my God, I had an email in my inbox from Rita about Jamaica and I want to go to Jamaica. Let me just go into that email and reply and see if she can help me, instead of them, making a post on Facebook asking, does anyone know a travel agent? They know a travel agent right in their inbox, and they'll remember that because you've taken the time to build that relationship.
So when like thinking about emails too, I stopped sending emails
Mm-hmm.
earlier this year because I
Mm-hmm.
was just not finding joy in writing any of my emails. So that is something that I know that I need to start doing, but I do connect in other ways. And I think it's really important to be on multiple different platforms and to figure out what your strategy is
Mm-hmm.
and what works for you, because what works for you and what feels good to you is what you're actually going to do. But thinking about email marketing, if we're thinking about kind of like the strategy behind content writing and copywriting, how many content pieces should you be putting out there before then you send like a copywriting piece? Is it kind of like 3 emails in the month are content and then one is a copy, or what's your opinion on that?
I don't have an actual formula. I just think that as long as you've been building that relationship, sending, weekly or bi-weekly emails, newsletters, when you have something to promote, I think you should feel comfortable to send it out because you know that you've taken the time to get to know those folks and let them get to know you.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're launching a trip to a warm audience, as I like to call it,
Yes.
then there's really no limitation, because once you have something to promote, then you actually are going to rev up the amount of time you email them. You might do it, weekly, down to every few hours on the the time before the trip closes. So there really is no huge formula in my book. I just think it's important to do something consistently before you start trying to sell to them.
Mm-hmm. So when we're talking about like a content piece,
Mm-hmm.
what's an example of a content piece and what are some elements that help to build or nurture that relationship?
I like newsletters, and they can go from 1 to 2 sections all the way down to 5. And I manage newsletters for other travel agents. So we like to usually put something personal. We like for our sections to emphasize know, like, and trust. Let me say that first.
Yes.
So, how do you get them to know and like you? So in the beginning, we like to put something personal, maybe a friendly photo of yourself in the park with your family,
Mm-hmm.
with a little bit of information about what's going on in your life. Not really salesy in that section, just
Right.
here's what's going on with me, here's why you should like me. And then the trust piece, we like to show that we are experts in the industry somehow, some way, whether that be a link to a expert blog post that we've written, whether we'll just type in the newsletter some expert packing tips, or tips for nervous flyers, or whatever you're expert in. And then the other sections after that can be spotlighting a customer. It could be promoting your trips, promoting your reviews. Really could be anything after that. But yeah, I like newsletters.
So do you prefer newsletters over blogs? Dun,
I
dun,
don't
dun.
I don't think there has to be a preference because
Okay.
if you write a blog, you can simply put a snippet of it in your newsletter and link them to your website.
Mm-hmm.
So for those who do maintain a consistent blog and then they want to start a newsletter, I actually recommend that. Let's put a little, a nice picture, a blog post header, and the first paragraph as a teaser in your newsletter, and let's get them over to your website just to read the rest.
Yes, no, you're kind of inspiring me. I'm like, oh, now I want to start like getting back into it.
Yeah, I love it. I actually had a long-standing newsletter in my travel business, and I guarantee you, anytime I sent out a newsletter, I would get 2 to 3 at minimum replies from someone who's engaging with my newsletter. Not always a sale, but sometimes saying, "Oh, Deanna, I love that you guys went to go see this concert," or whatever I have posted about in my personal section. But that just lets me know that they're getting to know me. But also oftentimes if I posted about the best food in Jamaica, someone's going to ask me for a quote to go to Jamaica. If I posted, tips for first time cruisers, someone's going to ask me for a cruise quote. Yeah,
Oh,
I had really good traction with my newsletter. I stand by it. And you were talking to me earlier about Gift Network, and I learned that from Meredith Hill. I went
no way.
Make Money Selling Travel, I think was the
Yes.
name of the conference. And she gave this really great webinar about why you should have a weekly newsletter, which I only had a
Mm-hmm.
bi-weekly, but why you should have a weekly newsletter. And she kind of gave the formula, and it was 7 years ago, and I still stand by that formula. It's very effective, and she knew what she was talking about.
That is so how long after implementing a newsletter sequence or however you want to call it would people expect to get some sort of traction? And when I say traction, like either people converting or inquiring or even just what you were saying, just replying back and getting to know you a little bit more.
It took a few. I was able to
Mm-hmm.
about a month. And that's really just 2 or 3 newsletters. But
Okay.
I'll be honest, the first bit of traction that I saw were unsubscribes. Uh,
Okay. Which is a
when
good thing.
Yeah, which I know now is a good thing because I made the mistake as a new travel agent as just to upload my personal Gmail contacts into my
Okay.
marketing system. But that helped me to scrub that list, and the few people that were really, really interested in what I had to say, they stayed. The people who were not for me, they left. And then I rebuilt the list the right way, the
Mm-hmm.
organic way, and it ended
Yes.
up really a really good source of leads that way.
Okay. I was going to ask you that because email marketing is a nurture strategy,
Mhm.
not an attract strategy.
Mhm.
So, how did you get people? How did you meet people and then convert them to being on your email newsletter?
I had a lead magnet, of course, and the lead magnet was anywhere I can think of. I wouldn't just say link in bio. I might say, um, comment, I want this, or a hands emoji. And then I would DM them a
Okay.
link to sign up for the lead magnet. But also, I had really good word of mouth because I built a very good reputation. But I also did quite a few vendor events where I felt like my ideal client would be. And
Okay.
rented booths, and I had a tablet with the sign up page, and I think maybe a contest or, a couple different strategies. And I built my list that way. And then, when people would come to my website, they would sign up after they would ask for a quote.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
I love that because I hate it when people are saying, yes, you can attract people on your email newsletter. And I'm like, well, how do they even know? How did you get their email address? Like, that's not attract marketing.
Yeah, and also in your newsletter, you can put a link. If you know anyone that might be interested in this, especially if you have a new trip or something that you're promoting, share this on your website or forward them this email. And that was helpful too.
Yes. Yes. Now, I inquiring minds myself, would you say that you had more people joining your email list through your lead magnet or from these in-person events you were at a vendor on?
In-person events, I would say.
I
Because
love that answer.
unless you're running an ad for your lead magnet, you probably won't see, you'll see, drips of traffic.
Hmm.
But when you're in person, and again, that's why I love email so much, you're making connections,
Yes.
which is why I love newsletters, because you make connections. But when you're in person making connections and people can actually ask you questions and talk to you, yeah, I did. I was very successful when I would rent a booth, and also had to be where my ideal client was going to be.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Nail on head.
I didn't do destination weddings, so I would never do a bridal show,
Right. Right.
So, and it was a very, very picky type of strategy for me. And
Hmm.
sometimes they were unconventional activities, but yeah.
I love that. It's kind of like not the norm. Like when you know who your ideal client is, like really
Mhm.
truly know them, you know what they like, what their thoughts are, and you can like establish buying patterns almost or social patterns.
Yeah, you know where they're going to be and you can be there too.
Yes. Yes.
Hmm.
So when I know a lot of people might be a little bit nervous about writing, and we were talking about not to be talking like so corporate-y, like this is a ship and it's got 5,000 passengers on board. But I
Hmm.
feel maybe people might think that some of their writing may be too casual. Is that something really to consider, or is there anything to combat thinking like that?
I would say if it's super, super trendy, maybe think twice about it. But I would try to talk as if you're having a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So I've had people when I write for them ask me, can you take out the contractions? And I'll have to say to them, but is that how you talk? Do you say you are going to love this trip? Or do you say you're going to love it? You
Mm-hmm.
know? So write like you talk is the advice that I give people. Use contractions. Sometimes your sentences will end with a preposition, and sometimes you could throw a good old fashioned y'all in there if that's how you talk.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And that's how it happens to be how I talk. And when I write for other people, I usually have a consultation with them to kind of get an idea of that. But yeah, I would say write the way you talk. And I also love a good story. I love it.
Mm.
I do. I love a good story. I think it helps to help you connect with people. I think it draws people in,
Hmm.
and you can pick a story. I already have a story about how Instagram shut down my page. I already have
Right.
3 or 4
Oh
stories
my
ready to
gosh.
tell. It's a good story, especially when
Right.
you can build it back up. So if you can put a story in your travel content, help the people relate, and you don't always have to be perfect. You can tell people how you messed up and how it made you a better travel agent.
Hmm.
You know, did you forget to give someone their record locator number one time and they were at the airport lost, didn't know what to do, but that helped you improve your systems? Did you get a bad review one time and really took a good hard look at, where you had a shortcoming, and now you do this differently? Even if it's a negative story, I still think it has value.
I really appreciate the rawness and the authenticity of that because it shows that we're all human
Mhm.
and that I try to make whatever trip it is as perfect as possible, but sometimes that doesn't happen. But if it doesn't, I'm going to have your back and make sure we can get you back on track.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And actually, I am starting my own newsletter now. And, a moment of authenticity. I manage newsletters for travel agents all the time. And I promote newsletters, but I don't have one myself. And I get stuck up in the same places where my fellow travel agents do. What if they
Yes.
don't like it? What do I put in there? What if they unsubscribe? And I had that same trip up of what would I put in there? And I decided, and it will be launching in the next week or so, to just have moments of authenticity. And so my title of my newsletter is going to be Confessions of a Travel Content and Copywriter, where I write down where, my business isn't perfect. And if you feel that way about your business, you're not alone.
Ooh, I love that idea because It's funny you say that because I feel the same way about social media. I'm hired by other people to do their social media. And then sometimes I'm like, I don't even know what to post for myself. I am better at describing somebody else's business and what somebody else does well than my own business.
Yeah, it's easier, right? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Now, something that I loved about your first Instagram page, we'll just say it first and second, was when you used to write the overused words in the travel industry, because I
Oh,
find
yeah.
myself guilty of that. So when I could find, oh, I like that word instead. So
Mhm.
what are some of the words that we need to start, I want to say taking out, but really maybe just using less of in our vocabulary?
I think it's still okay to say it, but I see a lot of people, and I'm guilty of it myself. Sometimes I have to go back to my post to come up with different words. So before I tell you the words, I'll say, as you expand your vocabulary, write it down. Keep a list. I like to call them sparkle words. Other people call them power words. Everyone has a different name, but keep a list, a running list of, if you read it on someone else's content, and then you can refer back to it if you get stuck. But I think awesome is a little bit
I'm
overused.
guilty of that.
Yeah. And I think in the same aspect, amazing is
Mm-hmm.
kind of in the same realm. So I'm thinking this off, trying to remember my post, but instead of saying awesome, you can say incredible.
Mm-hmm.
You can say jaw dropping. You can say, and I like to make up my own words by adding an apostrophe if I'm linking two words. So that's where jaw dropping, spine tingling, wowing would come in. And so I think if you can replace awesome or amazing with some of those words, I think it'll help your copy.
Mm-hmm.
Another one, believe it or not, I think is luxury. And
Yes.
think you don't have to say luxury to sell luxury. And I think instead of saying luxury, you can say exquisite. You can say top notch, 5 star, best in class. You can say chic or phenomenal.
Yes, I
Yeah.
feel, and I think this was just kind of like me scrolling on Instagram. I feel like luxury is a very overused word, and sometimes I feel like people aren't even using it correctly because luxury can be so broad. It means different
Mhm.
things to different people.
Mhm. I agree. And I think people sometimes say luxury because they want to charge more, but are they really providing a luxury service?
Right.
But I don't think you actually always have to say the word luxury to, I think luxury can come across in your content and your copy without you ever saying that word.
Mm.
I
Ooh,
think
I
if you
like
do
that.
a better job of describing what you do, I think if your client is a luxury traveler, they will be drawn to your description of your services, description of the resorts, description of your off the beaten path recommendations, then more than they'll be drawn to you saying the word luxury.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Other than hiring you, of course, are there some resources where people might be able to go to improve their writing?
I like to encourage, and I know we're busy as travel agents, I encourage people to read as much as possible. And I mean, go to other travel agents' websites. If you have a travel agent that you look up to and admire, I'd say go to their website and don't copy, but definitely take inspiration from the vibe, the feel, the cadence of their copy on their website. And as a copywriter, I do it all the time. If I get stuck, I just start reading until inspiration hits me.
Mm-hmm.
And emphasizing not to copy, but to definitely take an inspiration and, kind of get your mind going. But beyond that, you can become a better writer with, I think, Grammarly. Um,
Oh, yeah.
I love Grammarly, just encouraging you to remember that Grammarly is artificial intelligence and doesn't always get what we're trying to put out there. So sometimes their recommendations, a lot of times their recommendations, I say, oh, Grammarly, be quiet. I have those, those dots in my copy are there to break up the wall of text, but Grammarly
Right.
like that, you know. I also like the Hemingway editor,
Oh,
which is
what's that?
that's another free tool. It's similar to Grammarly, but it will tell you if your writing is too complex. It will tell you if you're using passive voice too often, if you're using difficult to understand sentences too often, and it will also grade your text's reading level. And it doesn't recommend that you write at a reading level higher than seventh grade. It says that the average person reads at a seventh grade level. And if you're writing to sell, then you should kind of dumb it down a little bit. Yeah.
Interesting. Even
Mhm.
like that, I feel like was like bomb advice because I hadn't even heard of that seventh grade
Yeah.
writing level.
Yeah, yeah, it'll tell you if you're in the eighth grade writing level when you write, it'll kind of be like you might want to, shorten some of your text, take some of those complex words out. Yeah, it'll give you, and there are options to upgrade, but I've never found the need to upgrade. And the other one, before I forget, is co-schedule. Headlines in your blogs are really, really important. Headlines in your social media captions are really, really important. And they have a headline analyzer. It'll tell you, it'll give you an average score on your headline, and it'll help you find power words or sparkle words to replace some of your text with. It'll tell you, we recommend you add more emotion words or more uncommon words to increase your texts or your headlines readability and, power of attraction. I use it when I write custom blogs for people. I always put my headlines in co-schedule to make sure it ranks above average.
Oh my. Now I'm like, I need to I need to like try this out because that's like
Yeah.
a game changer.
It is. Of course, it has an option for a to upgrade, but you don't have to use it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm all about investing in the right things in your business and
Yeah.
kind of like skimming as low as you can go until you can't go anymore.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I think those are the tools that I use the most when I'm writing. But I'll also tell you that there is no tool more powerful than reading your text out loud.
That's a bonus.
Yeah, I think that is, I run it, I write it, I read it, I run it through Grammarly. If I can, I have someone else read it for me because it gets
Mhm.
another set of eyes. But I always, before I send a final draft to a client, because I'm prone to typos. My mind goes faster than my fingers, I think. So
Right.
I always read it out loud. And if I find an error, I correct it and I start from the beginning of that paragraph to, just to make sure it still flows the right way. And combining that tip, even maybe take a minute to do something else to kind of cleanse your palate before you go right into reading out loud. If you've been working on it for a while, put it away for
Mhm.
a second and then come back to it with fresh eyes.
So many incredible tips today on copy and content writing. I thought that I knew a lot, but you illuminated so many important, like even the difference between what copywriting is and content writing is, and using those sparkle words and being able to just step back. I think that's so important. Like we're working, just take a moment to step back from
Mhm.
everything so that you can come back with fresh eyes.
Yeah, that's really important. And especially if you've had a hard time or it takes you a long time to write, just, I won't say have a glass of wine and then read it, but find something else
Maybe.
to do. Yeah, you might not be the best judge of your writing if after a glass of wine, but take a second, come back with fresh eyes and finish it up.
I was going to say, you definitely have a lot of sparkle words after that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So, how do you help travel business owners, travel advisors, with their content writing and copywriting efforts? What are some of the services you have?
Well, I have two, I guess, streams or ways to help. One is my done for you blogs,
Okay.
or I call them travel articles because they don't have to go on your blog. They can be your expert content in your newsletter. They are usually in list form, so each one can serve as a social media caption or a carousel post. But they are 500 words or more articles, and They all are on engaging, relevant topics in the travel industry. They're not just travel guides. They're not just, why you should go to Costa Rica. I'm working on one right now is where to go to heal your broken heart, you know?
How cute.
Yeah, so there's and I'm also working on one pass or pay, when to pay for an upgrade and when it's not really worth it. So they're all usually really engaging,
Mm-hmm.
fun topics, travel specific, destination specific also, but definitely I try to mix it up a little bit more with a lot of tips and packing tips and things like that you can share with your audience. Each article is only $5. Subscription is not required. You just come to the website, take what you need, and they come with at least 6 royalty-free images. You can post them on your blog, your social media, or in your newsletter.
Love that.
And then my other way to help travel agents is to do their content and copywriting. So I can write a custom blog if you don't want something that was pre-done. Also website copy, sales pages, landing pages, social media captions. And I think right now what's hottest is emails. I'm writing emails after email after email. A lot of people are launching trips. A lot of people are preparing for Black Friday and they're getting those emails together, which, kudos to those folks.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I actually was going to post on my old page that I was going to put a cutoff for how the last time I could take a order for a Black Friday email sequence. But yeah, so I think emails are really what's really hot now, and also newsletter management. So there's a few different ways I can help you. You just come to my website, pick your service, and we go from there.
Yes, and I love that because especially when we're thinking that email is nurture marketing, this is for those travel pros that are really actively networking, getting in tons of leads, working on those leads, executing their trips. But they know that nurturing these clients and potential clients are important. They just don't have the time to do it. And that's why they hire pros like yourself to take care of it for them.
A lot of my clients are good writers, but they're busy and they don't have time. But some of them are kind of newer to the industry and they need a welcome sequence. Or I have someone that just, decided to work with me. She's brand new and she has no idea what to put on her website. So we're going to work together. She has a designer and we're going to work together. I have all the sections and put her copy together for her website and kind of get her, her words on the paper or onto her website for her.
Love that. Well, Deanna, thank you so much for being on the podcast and sharing all these little jewels and gems that it is writing in the travel industry and as travel business owners.
Thank you for having me. My very first time on a podcast. Yay! So thank you so much. It was a fun experience and you're a good conversationalist.
Thank you so much. And listeners, thank you so much for tuning in this week. We'll see you next week. Have a great one. Thanks for joining me on The Strategic Travel Entrepreneur. Please subscribe and leave a show a rating on your favorite podcast platform. Oh, and don't forget to take a look at the show notes for important information and links. See you next week.